Something a little different today. We're doing a how-to video. I've come to find that it's hard to find how to replace the alternator on a 2004 Pontiac Montana. So I'm going to do that. And it's actually quite easy once you figure it out. It seems really easy until you get to the back. So there's a bolt here, and then you have your wires here and here, and there's a bracket here, and then your tensioner to loosen up the belt. That's all straightforward. The problem that you run into is the bolt on the back of the alternator that is pointed at roughly a 10 to a 15 degree angle from the alternator, pointed right to the firewall, and you can't get a wrench in there. You can't get anything, and you can barely fit your hand in there, but you can just barely fit a 15-inch wrench along with your arm right underneath the windshield wiper motor. Squeeze it back in there. You gotta feel where that bolt is. Right back here in the back. And then you're gonna pull the wrench towards you until you hear a pop. And that's not the wrench hitting on your shock tower. I'm talking about the bolt letting loose. You're gonna hear that bolt pop. And then you got it. And then you're going to sit there and you're just going to keep on pulling that wrench towards you as little or as much as you can until you got that bolt out of there good enough to where you can get it free. Until you can get it free with your fingers. Here, listen. And it won't come out of there because it hits against the firewall. So you're gonna have to loosen this front bolt up and then take the belt off as well. And then take it all out with one unit, if you will, and then put the new one in and just do the reverse of what you did. I'd like to add, there is another hidden bolt back here on this side of the alternator that you need to get off as well. And make sure that you undo your battery before you undo your power wire to your alternator here, because chances are you're going to hit this and spark out. So pop all that off, and then your alternator will come right out. And don't lose your bolts. So on a side note, if you want to take the challenge, I say do it. But if you don't, just have a mechanic do it, because you have to take your windshield wiper assembly apart. That includes your motor, your support rod, which runs the complete width of the car, your connecting rods for your windshield wipers. You gotta lose all your bolts. And then even when that's done, it still won't come out. And then you have to take your alternator out. Through here, through this area here, which will barely fit. You gotta shove this up, and it'll scrape across here. And guys, it's just a nightmare, but we got it. However, we don't have the new alternator yet because a reman is like $250. So we're gonna go to the local LKQ tomorrow and get that done, and we'll finish the video then. Now yesterday I actually misspoke and I apologize. I told you that you need to take this bracket off, which goes right here and attaches to this bolt like that. And you, in fact, do not need to take that off. And that's a 10 bolt. That's a 10 millimeter bolt. You do not need to take that off. Your alternator will come out of that just fine. This is a 120 amp alternator. The one I took out of this van was a 105 amp. So we're going to be pushing a little bit more amperage, which is perfectly fine. Believe me when I say this. This works 110% better if you take this motor out and everything with it. This and everything with it that I'm talking about is your windshield wiper assembly unit, which goes the complete width of your car up underneath of your windshield there. Take that out. But be very careful because these bolts break. And then these ones up inside of here, very easy to lose. And then those ones are very difficult to get to. That's why I didn't take those out. Somewhat of a nightmare. It's way easier just to go ahead and take it out though. But let's go ahead and try to get this in there. I tried to get the 10 millimeter bolts out from the bracket, holding the windshield wiper assembly unit all together in there. Out, I couldn't, so I gave up on that. Then came over here and decided to go ahead and just take the windshield wiper motor out completely and just bend the whole unit out. And hope for the best. Because at this point in time, I'm over it. I just want it to be put back together. I am by no means a mechanic, as you can tell. So this is where we're at. I do not recommend doing this. But this is where we are. Alright, now let's see if we can get this in here finally. And just by the luck of our draw, probably isn't going to go very well. I mean, why would it? Just need to spit on it. All right, let's put that back. Darn bracket's in the way. Right there. There's that. Stupid liner out of the way. Now we're upside down. Stupid liner is still in the way. this point in time, that is junk. Hitting anyway. Who needs fire safety, right? Okay. So, there is that. Note to self, don't forget to put the bolt in the passenger side of the alternator first. Alright, we're back after a short intermission to, I put some parts, I put some tools away and, well, had to cool myself off. So we got the belt back on. We got the motor back in right here. Don't mind this. Like I said, we're going to weld that back together up in there because I broke them bolts off. So be careful with those. Be careful with those bolts. Those babies are real brittle. I got these sat on there for right now. We're going to tighten them down in a minute. I got the alternator in there and tightened down. I got the battery cable on and tight. This bracket back on and tight. The battery cable. Get this boot off of here. Let me get this out of the way for you. Battery cable nut is a 13. And I know earlier I said that this bracket was a 10. That's actually a 13 as well. The alternator bolts are 15s. And then the ones that go there into them holes. Right there are these, and they're 10 millimeter. And that's what we're working on now. With this unit here, there is a rubber, little rubber triangle here on the back side. I'm gonna try to get you inside there. Get you all inside there. Okay, there's a rubber triangle that goes inside of that metal bracket dropping down there. And then up above that is the bracket that your bolts screw into the top of this too. And I suggest putting that rubber piece in first, trying your best to get everything lined up, and then screwing it all in there, and then worrying about getting these babies on there. It just works. Then just go ahead and button these babies up. You can put the cover back on there if you want to. I don't know where mine went, so we're gonna leave it off. But just to recap, oh, don't forget to plug that back in. You're gonna have windshield wiper fluid everywhere. If you don't, just to recap, these two bolts, 10 millimeters. Be very careful if you try to take them out because chances are they are going to break. Mine did. I'm going to weld them back on there, so I'm not worried about it right now. That's 10 millimeter as well. These are a Torx T37. There's 4 of them. There's one under here. There, and there to drop your motor. Right here is a gear, so you gotta loosen that out. These are 8 millimeter screws, or bolts, sorry. And then there are two 10 millimeter bolts back here holding on your middle pivot for your windshield wiper. And then there's 2 over there as well. You need to take all of that out in order to take your alternator out, which has 3 bolts. There is one here, which is a 15 millimeter. There is one back here on the passenger side, which is a 15 millimeter. There is one over here. You have to use a wrench on both of those because you cannot get a socket on them. And then underneath of this boot to your power wire is a 13 millimeter nut For some reason, if you need to get this bracket off, that is a 13mm as well. And then your wires, obviously, and your pulley, which my pulley is off just a smidge, so I will adjust that. But other than that, folks, looks like we are all set to go. And that's all there is to it.